Hey, this is Ina Langerman from Violin Live, helping you along your musical journey. This video is for beginners, how to play with a straight bow. I say straight in quotations because the bow never actually moves in a straight line. If the bow moved in a straight line, it would kind of go like this. In reality, the bow always moves in a curve, and we're gonna see in a moment what I mean by that. I just want to briefly go over a very important thing, that before we start practicing long bows or whatever you do to practice getting your bow parallel to the bridge, it's really important to consider your setup, okay? Because like by default, what is the angle of the scroll in relation to your collarbone? Because if you're not super clear on that, the results are gonna be they're gonna vary, okay? So now I do believe that a setup is something that's dynamic, that we should be able to change things depending on what we are playing. That's one of the reasons I don't wear a shoulder rest. I just have a little sponge back here, but I do have something that I consider my kind of default setting, like when I don't have anything special going on, I'm just practicing long tones. I love to start my warm-ups with long tones, actually. So when I practice my long tones, by default my scroll is about this angle from my collarbone. This is kind of what I'm accustomed to. Folks with longer arms might prefer to hold the scroll further to the left, and there would be more room over here out in front. For me, that's very comfortable over here for my left shoulder, but that's not gonna work as my default setting, because then I won't ever really reach the tip. That's okay too. You don't want to accidentally practice with a bad posture and hold the violin, let's say like this. I see a lot of kids holding their violin like this, and then they'll start practicing, and this works okay like this, but if I use this exact same angle of the bow and take my scroll, bring it there, of course it no longer works. You can see that, right? If I want to keep the bow parallel and my scroll is over there, my arm has to adjust accordingly. So that's why it's so important that you understand your default kind of setup, what kind of shoulder rest do you use, if you use one, what kind of chin rest do you use. That's all going to affect everything that we do here. Now, this is not meant to be a video about setup, but of course, just to make things brief, you want to be able to reach around your instrument. You want to feel free. You don't want to feel like your shoulder is kind of stuck like this. So you want to kind of consider that a little bit and how it affects everything that you do on the instrument. So we want also the strings to be by default kind of as parallel to the floor as we can, because if the scroll is too low, then the bow will simply go like that. It's going to be very hard to keep it parallel to the bridge. Similarly, if the scroll is too high, we don't want the bow to smack us in our face like that, right? So again, just be mindful of all of that. Now notice that the word posture makes a lot of people subconsciously stiff, like, you know, they say stand with a good posture, you know, like kind of stand like this. And of course we want to avoid being stiff. We want to feel free. We want to feel our shoulders nice and loose. Check that your jaw isn't clenching, loose shoulders, soft knees, feet planted on the floor if you're standing, hopefully. If not, if you're sitting, check that your sit bones are on a flat surface, if not one that's slightly leaning downward from your seat. Okay, checklist complete, bow holds good. Now we can begin. Okay, so we'll start very simple. So I'll just do it on the A string. I'll start in the middle of the bow, just short strokes, just to kind of warm up. And what I'm looking for here with the short strokes, I want to see that my elbow is free, that it can make tiny little circles like this, that my hand is free, holding the bow very lightly. Notice that my whole arm is kind of participating. I'm not talking anything yet about opening up at the forearm. We are going to do that, of course, to play in the upper half, but you want to kind of first find this position, like where your arm makes a square over here, like about a 90-degree angle. It might be in a different part of the bow for you. Again, depends on the arm length, it depends on where the scroll is for you. So you want to find what that is for you and just kind of start practicing. Just so I'm almost like drawing a little circle with my elbow. It's like painting, like paintbrush, okay? And I'm not doing straight lines, okay? Everything we do in the violin, everything has to be round. We want to avoid sharp edges as much as possible. Just kind of as our default warm-up tone, like just to get a nice clear tone. Next step is we are going to practice. From here, we're going to practice simply lifting the bow and gently placing it back down. And then once you get the hang of this, so you don't want to do this with the bow. You want to gently place it down. Notice how my entire arm lifts and goes down. Now I'm going to start placing the bow in different parts. So I'm going to go closer to the frog, and here I'm going to check. You can use a mirror to check if it's parallel with the bridge. You can adjust your fingers here. You can tap your fingers one by one, then lift, place it back in the middle, tap the fingers, lift, place near the tip. If you can't reach the tip, like this is also totally fine. That's perfectly fine. Whatever you are doing. Here also you might notice that your bow hand looks a little different here. That's great. You want the fingers to adjust, and you want the hair and the stick to always be in the same angle. You want to make sure that, I talked about this a couple of videos ago, that the stick is above the hair when we're near the tip, especially, and also in the middle. Now when we go to the frog, it's okay, we can actually tilt the bow a little bit this way so the stick is facing away from you. Okay, so that's the second exercise. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna practice bow retakes in the Suzuki circle. We call them bow circles, and I actually love saying that. I love bow circles. From around the balance point is a good place to start. And I'm going to start very small bow circles like this. And just like the very first exercise when I was doing just small strokes in the middle of the bow, pay attention to what my elbow is doing here. It's drawing a small little circle. So the circle is actually, draw a little circle with the elbow, and the bow kind of follows. If we have a nice relaxed bow hold, the elbow leads it back. And gently put it back down in the same place. Then the next step is to do the same thing and just extend the bow a little bit. So now the circle will start to look a little more like an oval, maybe. Or you could still keep it a circle by going out a little bit more. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find my square again. I'm going to do the same bow circle exercise, but this time from the square. I'm going to do a small one going down, bow. And here is where I'm going to start practicing opening here at the forearm a little bit, okay? And start extending more. Now, it's hard to see in the camera. As you do this, pause for a second and check how you're standing, and you want to feel like you're able to kind of sway side to side a little bit. And I'm going to add this feeling to the bow circles, okay? So I'm going to do the extended bow circle again. And I'm going to allow the weight of my body to lean a little bit to the left as the bow extends forward, and then we'll come back to center, to the center weight, equally among both feet when the bow is back on the string. So it kind of looks like this. So of course in the video you cannot see my feet, but I'm making sure that both feet are always planted. My knees are slightly, like they're almost bent, but they're not, very important that the knees are not locked. And you want to make sure that you can lean from one to the other. Mostly I'm going from being centered weight equally among both feet to leaning a little bit to the left and then back to center. That's mostly what I'm doing. Of course there's variations on the theme, many different ways to think about this, but this is just a basic thing that you can do as you're practicing doing straight bows. And it actually assists the bow arm a little bit, because if our legs are stiff, and I try to do the same thing, I'm gonna make my legs super stiff right now. Somehow the stiff legs infect the arm a little bit sometimes, so it's good to encourage that kind of feeling everywhere. So if we want our arms to be free, by having our legs also free, having our knees soft like that, it encourages our arm to also be open like that. So at the very end, playing the violin, even the most basic things like open strings, it does become a full body action of sorts. So everything affects everything else. So the next exercise is one I really enjoy teaching to beginners, and it's pretty easy to pick up, so you can try it with a friend or somebody at home, or you can try it by yourself. Like I'm about to show you here, I'm gonna do it by myself. I'm gonna put the bow near the tip like this, make sure it's parallel to the bridge, and I'm gonna, sorry for the sound, I'm gonna grab the tip with my other hand like this and hold the bow kind of in place like this. And now I'm going to use my bow arm to glide up and down the stick, and that teaches the arm the path of where it has to go to stay parallel to the bridge, and that's the contact point we are using. And one more thing that I like to do here, so the fingers are like a paintbrush, okay? And the whole arm is participating. You want to make sure that you want to feel that your shoulder is free, that you can move from right here from the collar with the collarbone. So remember a couple of videos ago we did these lazy arm swings. You want to feel free like this. So when we do an up bow with this exercise, you can lead with the wrist a little bit on the way up, and notice how the rest of the arm follows naturally. And then as we make the turnaround, look, the elbow is going to lead the way back down. So one part of the arm follows the next. So it becomes like one, kind of like an ocean wave. Okay, so what you want to do next is then, right after doing this exercise like 10 times, maybe I did like 10 times on the A string like this, up and down, then pick up your bow, exactly whatever the fingers are doing right now, don't change anything, just grab the bow as it is and do the same thing. The path that you just created. Then you can repeat the same exercise on the other strings. I definitely recommend doing it on G string because it does feel very different. The angle of the bow to the string is very different. So definitely do this exercise here as well. Remember to adjust where your elbow is in relation to the G string. So we're not down here. You can't be down here, it's too low. So you want to kind of be high enough, the elbow should be high enough to support the hand, okay? So it all has to work together. So something like this, and then so it's an excellent exercise. It only takes a few seconds. Once you really get the hang of it, do it for a few seconds every day. It's such a great warm-up. And then after this, when you play your scales, it's just going to be so much easier to listen for a pure tone, for intonation. Intonation is just much easier when we have a good tone, once the bow is more reliable. Finally, you probably already do this, many of you watching probably already do this, and the last step is to practice on all 4 strings playing in the upper half. So remember what we did at the very beginning, where the elbow was making these little circles when we were doing that. Combine that with the bow retakes we were doing earlier. Notice that I am not isolating this. I'm not isolating my forearm like this, because in reality everything moves, okay? But yes, of course, we want to train to open here, okay? Very often it's easy to lock up and start going like this, which is incorrect. So we want to practice going out this way, but if you lock the upper arm, it's actually going to cause more harm than good. It's going to cause all of this to be very stiff, and it's going to make the sound stiff, and you'll get tired much faster also. So everything comes down to the very first exercise we did today. So when you start playing in the upper half, and again, feel free in your knees. Make sure your feet are planted. I was just standing a little bit higher like this, so you could see where my arm is when I'm at the tip. And then repeat on the other strings. So again, the bow hold has to be very relaxed, very loose. Definitely check that your thumb isn't doing this, because that's gonna again create bumps in the sound, and it's also gonna create stiffness going up the forearm. So the bow hold should be very kind of natural, like you're just hanging your arm, or if you're walking down the street, the way you would just hang your arm down by your side. So it's so hard to talk about something so specific about like how to play with a straight bow without addressing what the rest of the body is doing. I hope you understand why I spent so much at the beginning of the video talking about all those other things, because everything is so connected and affects everything else. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Please give it a like and share it with a friend or a colleague, and write in the comment section below what was your biggest takeaway. Let me know what you are working on. Okay, until next time, happy practicing.